Canada just dropped a bombshell on U.S. businesses. A massive boycott of American brands in response to escalating tariffs. From fast food chains to big-name retailers, Canadian consumers are turning away, and the impact is already being felt across the border. Is this the start of an all-out trade war? How will American companies survive the backlash? In this video, we dive deep into Canada's bold retaliation, the ripple effects on both economies, and what this means for everyday shoppers. Stay tuned. This could shake up North American trade like never before. Tensions between the US and Canada are reaching a breaking point, and Canadians aren't just watching from the sidelines, they're taking action, starting right in the aisles of their local grocery stores. A massive wave of patriotic spending is sweeping the nation, with hundreds of thousands pledging to ditch American brands in favor of homegrown alternatives. This movement, dubbed Buy Canadian, is exploding at lightning speed. Online communities dedicated to the cause have swelled past 500,000 members, while social media is flooded with proud shoppers showing off their all-Canadian grocery hauls. Supermarkets are joining in, plastering shelves with bold Made in Canada signs to guide consumers toward homegrown options. But this isn't just about skipping Starbucks or swapping Kraft mac and cheese for a local alternative. It's an economic statement, a clear message that Canadians won't be pushed around. The spark? US President Donald Trump's looming threat to slap a crushing 25% tariff on Canadian goods. With February 1st fast approaching, anxiety is growing. If these tariffs take effect, everyday essentials, from food to fuel, could be caught in the crossfire, sending prices soaring and creating economic uncertainty. In response, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau isn't backing down. His government is preparing retaliatory measures to shield Canadian businesses. But while politicians battle it out, ordinary shoppers are launching a grassroots rebellion of their own. Across the country, grocery stores are scrambling to adapt. Some retailers are redesigning aisles to highlight local products, while independent grocers roll out Made in Canada tags to help consumers make informed, patriotic choices. And it's not just supermarkets. Restaurants, cafes, and small businesses are proudly promoting Canadian suppliers, shifting their shelves and menus to reflect national pride. Shoppers like Peggy Chambers say they're more mindful than ever. I've always tried to support Canadian products, but now it feels like a responsibility, she says. As long as it's not made in the US, I feel like I'm making a difference. Meanwhile, viral shopping guides are flooding social media, giving Canadians a clear roadmap to avoid American imports. These lists pit big-name US brands against their Canadian counterparts, urging consumers to choose homegrown snacks, condiments, and household essentials over American staples like Campbell's Soup, Lysol, and Pepsi. But experts warn it's not always black and white. Many US brands source ingredients or manufacturing from Canada, blurring the lines between domestic and foreign goods. Still, for many, this isn't just about what's on the label. It's about taking a stand. It all started with Trump's tariff announcement, a 25% tax on Canadian goods, plus an extra 10% on energy exports. The shockwaves rippled through the economy, sparking outrage and uncertainty. But instead of waiting for politicians to sort it out, ordinary people took action. Across the country, shoppers are making a statement with their wallets. Social media is packed with tips on avoiding American brands, viral lists comparing US products to Canadian alternatives, and grocery stores eager to help. What began as frustration has turned into a full-scale movement, one receipt at a time. For some Canadians, making the switch is simple. Dairy, meat, and seasonal produce are almost always sourced locally. But when it comes to packaged foods, cleaning supplies, and fresh fruit during the winter, things get more complicated. Ottawa resident Don Profit captures the new mindset perfectly. If it's made in Canada, it's going in my cart. But this isn't just about filling shopping baskets, it's about taking a stand. Even Canadian officials are backing the movement. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has publicly encouraged consumers to prioritize Canadian businesses, while his government prepares countermeasures against Trump's tariffs, targeting billions in U.S. goods. However, not everyone is on board. Some experts caution that buying Canadian isn't always as simple as it sounds. Many U.S. brands depend on Canadian farms and factories, so avoiding them could unintentionally hurt local jobs. Food industry analyst Sylvain Charlebois warns that labels don't always tell the whole story. Just looking at a brand name might make you think you're making the right choice, but in reality, you could be cutting off Canadian workers without realizing it. Even with these concerns, many shoppers remain committed to the cause. Peggy Chambers, who has supported Canadian-made goods for years, believes the effort is worth it. It takes extra time, but I'd rather see my money stay in Canada than go to the US. Of course, not everything can be locally sourced. Canada's harsh winters mean that fresh fruits and vegetables often have to be imported. That's why some consumers are turning to frozen alternatives, many of which are processed and packaged in Canada, making them a practical substitute when fresh options aren't available. Beyond just grocery shopping, this shift in spending is creating major economic waves. While Canadian farmers and manufacturers are seeing an increase in demand, businesses that rely on cross-border trade are facing uncertainty. Pierre Olivier, who owns a model train company in St. Thomas, Ontario, is especially concerned. His company depends heavily on American customers, and if tariffs go into effect, he may be forced to raise prices, a move that could drive buyers away permanently. Larger retailers aren't immune either. As the Buy Canadian movement gains momentum, major chains could struggle to keep up with demand for homegrown products. Prices might increase, product variety could shrink, and the economic ripples could spread far beyond grocery stores. But one thing is clear: Canada isn't standing down. With Trump's tariff deadline looming, Trudeau's government is preparing to fire back with its own tariffs, targeting billions of dollars in American exports. And this time, they're being strategic, hitting products from key political battleground states, ensuring that Washington feels the pressure just as much as Canada does. Take Florida orange juice and Kentucky bourbon, both now squarely in Canada's crosshairs. The goal? Put pressure on Trump's political allies and make them reconsider the trade war. But this battle isn't just about shopping habits and tariffs. The tension is spilling into everyday life. Reports have surfaced of Canadian crowds booing the U.S. national anthem at sports events, a sign of growing frustration. Many feel betrayed by their southern neighbor, a country they once saw as a close ally. Energy is emerging as another powerful bargaining chip. Canada is the largest supplier of crude oil to the U.S. and a key provider of electricity to the Northeast. Some leaders, like Ontario Premier Doug Ford, have even suggested cutting off energy exports as a way to push back against American policies. But not everyone agrees. Provinces like Alberta, which depend heavily on oil exports, warn that shutting down energy trade could backfire, hurting Canada just as much, if not more, than the U.S. And as the trade standoff intensifies, both nations face a difficult challenge. Canada wants to fight back against unfair tariffs, while the U.S. is trying to assert dominance without triggering an all-out trade war. Behind the scenes, officials on both sides are scrambling for solutions. High-level meetings, urgent strategy sessions, and backroom negotiations have been happening for weeks. But as tensions rise, one major question looms: how far is Canada willing to go? Some argue that retaliatory tariffs are the only way to make the U.S. pay attention. Others fear that escalating the conflict could destabilize businesses, create uncertainty, and shake investor confidence. I don't think the U.S. expected this level of pushback. says one economic analyst. They assumed there'd be frustration, sure, but not a full-scale response. Yet, with Canada standing firm, the next move in this economic standoff could change everything. The impact of this trade battle won't be one-sided. It's set to hit both economies hard. But for many Canadians, this has become about more than just economics. It's about national pride. Every dollar spent on a homegrown brand feels like an act of defiance, a statement that Canada doesn't need the U.S. to thrive. However, the reality is more complicated. Canada's economy is more intertwined with the U.S. than many realize. For decades, the two countries have built their industries side by side, with supply chains so deeply connected that boycotting U.S. goods isn't always straightforward. Many American companies rely on Canadian suppliers, and vice versa. Take the tech sector, for example. Canadian startups want to support the Buy Canadian movement, but they also depend on U.S. partnerships, investors, and customers. Cutting ties with the American market could mean shrinking opportunities and lost revenue. Other industries, however, are discovering both their strengths and weaknesses. Agriculture remains one of Canada's strongest sectors, but harsh winters make it difficult to rely solely on locally grown produce. The push for more Canadian-grown food has sparked investments in greenhouse farming and vertical agriculture, but scaling up will take time. Meanwhile, dairy farmers, who have long been a sticking point in U.S.-Canada trade disputes, are seeing renewed interest in their products. With fewer Canadians buying American dairy brands, local farms are working to expand their reach and explore new export markets beyond North America. Manufacturers are also rethinking their supply chains. Many are searching for ways to produce goods entirely within Canada, reducing dependence on U.S. imports. If successful, this shift could revitalize the Canadian manufacturing sector, creating jobs and sparking new waves of innovation. But while some industries see opportunity, others are bracing for serious trouble. Small businesses that rely on American customers are especially vulnerable. If tariffs take effect, price hikes could push their products out of reach for U.S. buyers, threatening their survival. And the stakes go beyond economics. The entire foundation of North American trade is being called into question. Just a few years ago, Canada, the U.S., and Mexico renegotiated NAFTA into the USMCA to stabilize trade relationships. But now, with tensions rising, some are wondering if that deal will even hold. For now, the 30-day pause on tariffs has given both sides a moment to breathe. Instead of rushing into an all-out economic war, leaders have one last chance to negotiate. For Canada, that means proving its economic strength while addressing U.S. concerns, including border security and the fight against illegal drug trafficking. The Canada-U.S. economic partnership is often compared to a long-standing marriage, built on trust, mutual benefit, and decades of shared history. But right now, that relationship is going through a serious rough patch. With Trump threatening to impose a 25% tariff, the stakes couldn't be higher. Canadian officials are scrambling to mount a response, knowing that this move could shake the very foundation of North America's trade system. The numbers tell the story. Every single day, $3.6 billion worth of goods cross the border. Millions of Canadian jobs depend on exports to the U.S., while American businesses rely on Canadian resources. But as tensions reach a boiling point, both sides are preparing for the fallout. In Canada, political leaders aren't holding back. But for many Canadians, this isn't just about politics, it's about pride. The Buy Canadian movement has exploded, with more people than ever choosing homegrown brands over American imports. Grocery stores, businesses, and even small-town markets are embracing the shift, rebranding with a bold, patriotic edge to encourage shoppers to support local industries. While some see this as a temporary reaction, many experts believe it's a lasting shift. The more Canadians focus on building a self-sustaining economy, the less leverage the U.S. has over us, one trade analyst explained. This isn't just about avoiding tariffs, it's about long-term economic independence. At the heart of the debate lies a critical question. Can Canada afford to play hardball with its largest trading partner? Or is it time to mend fences before both sides suffer lasting economic damage? With the 30-day negotiation window ticking down, the world is watching to see what happens next. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more updates.